The end of this video might not be what the beginning of this video thought it would be. I've played around with adjustability basically since the start of my sewing journey, and mostly that's been focused on sizing, adjusting to different measurements so that a garment can be worn throughout various stages of life or even throughout just the body fluctuations of a day, and therefore hopefully last longer. But what about adjustability in other areas of garment characteristics? Like, say, how sexy it is or not. Yeah, this dress design has been in the back of my head for quite a while now, and I've literally just been referring to it as adjustable sexiness. It's kind of just a little black dress, but made out of a nice, weighty black knit, because comfy knit dresses, yes please. I am thinking boat neck, long sleeves. Are we gonna self-draft some set-in sleeves today? Maybe. T-length, but shockingly, not a super full skirt. I was originally gonna do sort of like a trumpety thing, like curving in with a bit of a flare on the bottom. But recently, I keep seeing this specific design style crop up, and therefore I must try it. It's the, I don't actually know what to call it, or what it's officially called. I kind of think of them as modern panniers? Panniers. That's a word I've potentially never said out loud. How do you say that word?
Pannier.
Pannier? Okay, look, pannier doesn't sound right, but that's what the internet says. Anyway, got a little off track there. It's like two added on pieces of skirt that kind of curve over the hips, but don't extend all the way around the dress. Yeah, like they're just on the sides. I'm interested in, one, how to draft and sew this, but two, and even more so, what this style will look like on my particular body shape. So, I'm gonna do that. But the adjustably sexy part, what is that all about? Pretty much, the dress is backless, or very, very low back. Or not, because it's adjustable. That's a very low back. I just want to create like a very, very low back on this dress, like full on sexy. But then I want to add lacing, not X lacing, I think. I think I'm gonna do like Z lacing. Spiral lacing? Everything has proper names and I never know any of them. The idea being, hopefully, theoretically, that because the dress is made of a stretchy material, you could lace it all the way closed to whatever height you want, thereby adjusting how sexy it is. So, does this make sense? Will this work? I have no answers for either of those questions, but let's go find out. I have this black knit, feels very delightful, very luxurious. It does have this like raised stripe on it that I am sure you cannot see in this frame. Okay, that's a horribly washed out frame, but see, it's, raised stripes. Do you want to come up here? What a nice boy. But also, I don't have a ton of this, and this was like a remnant from remainders, so, you know, it's got like a weird little thingy on it here. It's got circles cut out of it. I'm gonna have to figure out if I can even fit this dress on here. What if I just draped a garment using the circles that already existed? Ta-da! Also, you may have noticed that there was something missing from my design drawing. What about the pockets? I cannot figure out how to get pockets logically and usably into this garment with those side hip things. There's no side seams then. Your seams are like in the frontish and in the backish. So where are you putting a pocket? Patch pockets, welt pockets, none of those are gonna work super well on this style of dress. They're not gonna look right or they're not gonna hang right. Also though, how many times have I said also? I can't keep track anymore. Lately, I've been feeling kind of rushed on projects by no fault of the projects themselves or even really this, making videos about it. It's not the fault of that, it's my brain. It's always just my brain. Not always, but mostly. The desire to finish things is just hardwired into my noggin, and lately, pardon me while I burp in the middle of that sentence. Lately, I've just been struggling a little bit more against the idea that I need to finish things as fast as possible, because that idea is just completely wrong. So while making a dress could be like a 1 or 2 day thing for me, I am going to purposely do this as slowly and thoughtfully and carefully as possible, so that 1, I get a really nice dress out of it, and 2, I don't know, I just kind of like flip the bird to that part of my brain. It's a big old F you to the part of my brain that screams at me things that are incorrect and I don't want to hear. They're not even going to be side quests that are like things I need to get done. If I find myself feeling like I am rushing, I'm going to make myself just drop what I'm doing, stop, and go like read a book, do some embroidery, color, anything to force myself to not rush. Because sometimes we just gotta tell certain parts of our brain to go shove it up. I do not have enough fabric for this. Even pared down to being shorter, 3/4 length sleeves, basically a pencil skirt. No, I still don't have enough fabric. Back to the drawing board. Or back to the fabric closet. Let's see what else I got. Okay, so I have 4 ideas, and I'm gonna force myself to take my time, not rush, and consider all 4 of them. Idea number 1, I have another sort of luxurious, thick, nice feeling black knit. No stripes on this one. It's also not really enough to do the entire thing, but can I combine it with the other one? Therein lies the question. One side of this is a little bit shiny, which I assume is probably the front, but I would use the back of it that is not shiny. Or did I imagine that whole thing? No, this side is a little bit shinier. They work. They go together really nicely. I think this is good. I think this is a grand solution. In which case I can dump these 2 ideas. This was just, I have a lot of this fabric. I've been looking for something to do with it. I could theoretically make this dress out of it, but I didn't really like the idea of this design with this fabric. I kind of like the idea of the hip things in this fabric, but not the low back. And then this, I really like the idea of the hip things in, because these 2 fabrics actually go together really well, but this one is like thicker and heavier and a more sturdy fabric, and then this one's a little lighter and floatier and more see-through. So like, what if the hip things were made out of this and the main dress was made out of this? Again, this is me leaning into the hip things and not really caring about the low back, which like the low back was the whole original purpose of my design. The hip things were just a little side exploration. We'll set that aside and not think about it again. Maybe. Now I'm just having ideas for the lacing loops. Okay, we're going with this. back to work. That was a nice little side exploration, I guess. Woo! This is a very small piece in my head, and that makes me nervous, but I gotta trust in small pieces. I make everything too big. It's time to make something that's small because it's supposed to be small. Nice. Okay, 2 pieces cut out and we're already gonna pause for lunch. Huzzah. After a lunch break so long it extended to 8 the next morning, I'm really nailing this slowing down thing, y'all. I got to work sewing those 2 small pieces together. I did a ton of meticulous back and forthing here, so proud of myself. Adjusted the side seams like 3 times, added darts on the bust, cut down the armholes a couple times, and this is what I ended up with. I'm loving how it fits in the front. I love where the side scoops are laying over the hips right now. I think that'll look great. So this low back can first of all be lower, because right now it's sort of just a normal low back, which defeats the purpose of the oh so extra sexy super low back idea. And then I think I need to widen the V around the waist, because right now not only could it be laced closed, but it would be able to do so without even pulling that hard on the material. I tested how the front of the dress responds to the weight of my phone, because I think I'm gonna throw one hidden pocket in there just for emergency storage. Ultimately, I decided to go ahead and trace out these 2 pieces in their current state onto some wrapping paper, basically as a pattern piece. Yeah, that's what that is. It's a pattern piece, because I think they turned out well and I could potentially use them again. And that makes me feel better about chopping even more fabric off of them. Yay! I then did a butt ton of pinning so I could slightly test the back as it is. My plan is to do bias tape all the way around this opening because it's so big I don't need it to stretch. I actually specifically need it to be stabilized. And then I have this loopy trim that I'll line up the back V rather than sewing in very specific loops. This makes it way easier for me in the sewing process, but also means you could lace the back however you want, even super duper zigzaggy so it's almost un-see-through because there's so much lacing, you know? I took yet another break to visit the farmer's market, and then we got down to business. My main concern is the pull of the back lacing yanking the hidden loops out from under the little edge of fabric that's supposed to cover them. So I'm just gonna take my time and do some understitching and really make sure I'm getting everything attached properly here. Okay, so here's where we've landed. It's pretty good. The folding over clean edge with like the stable bias tape I think was a really good idea. I don't love how my seam looks right here, which you will not be able to see on camera because it's black. But trust me, I don't love how it looks, and so I was sitting there thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I could cover that seam with like one of those thin black velvet ribbons, but then I was like, nah, I'd have to go to the store then, I'd have to go get some. Checked my ribbon drawer. Guess who already had a little black velvet ribbon? Why? I have no idea. But in the spirit of being slow and careful and meticulous on this dress, I think I'm just gonna hand sew. Again, you can't see any of that on here. It's really an in-person detail, but I think I'm gonna hand sew this over the seam all the way around. And I think it'll just kind of look nice, first of all, but also because the sleeves and the side things are gonna be the ribbed knit. I just lost my words. I think it'll kind of reflect that as well. And while I'm hand sewing that, I am still having the issue with the edge of the dress. Just the edge folding back when you lace it, and I really want that to lay flat, but I don't want to put another seam there, or at least not a visible one, so I think I'm actually gonna like hand sew it down. Wow. Commitment! But before I do all of that hand sewing, I'm gonna take another little break because there's something I've been wanting to do. I got a whiteboard the other day to hang up in the kitchen because y'all know how much I love a list. Or 5 billion lists. And I am pretty solidly happy for almost all of my lists to be digital. But I've realized that one list that does not do well being digital is the list of stuff that I want to bake or cook. I don't really know why, but it's like I need it to be more visual and I need it to be in the place where that happens. So I think a whiteboard will be really handy. Yes. And see, now I'm of course going to forget everything I've ever wanted to make. I've been in the mood to make some candied citrus lately. And I got passion fruit at the farmer's market today. That's rare to find. Like, it's so interesting to me watching Great British Bake Off. They use passion fruit all the time. And everywhere I've lived in America, it's either impossible to find or really expensive when you do find it. So I'm like, why is it seemingly more accessible in England? I don't know, but passion fruit something, because I got some. Also, the passion fruit we have in these countries, if you've ever seen a passion fruit and it's a purple thing on the outside, nah. In Brazil, they're like twice or 3 times the size, they're yellow on the outside, and they are really sweet and delicious, and you don't have to mix sugar with them. That's good passion fruit. I want to try making a Basque cheesecake. You know, the ones that you're actually supposed to almost burn? I'm fascinated by that. Oh, and monkey bread. I have not made monkey bread in ages, and that was very much a Christmas thing growing up. My mom made monkey bread every Christmas for us. Yeah, so I'll just keep adding to this as the ideas come to me. But at this size of writing, I can fit a lot of things on this board. Cool, back to the dress. I'm gonna go do a whole bunch of hand sewing. So that's probably gonna be the rest of today. Woo! Next morning, we're back to the cutting table to get that front pocket and the side swooshes cut out. I'm doing a quarter circle for each hip, so it shouldn't be this big gathered poofiness, but just a sleek curve. A slight bit more fullness than normal, perhaps. Easiest of peasies here. Okay, y'all, I really, really like this. Just like the feeling of a weighty knit, the way that it flows and it moves is so nice. And as much as I love my full skirts, this is kind of nice that it's like, I don't know, like the way it switches and flows is different because of the shape, and I really enjoy it. This is going very well. The pocket is kind of hilarious. It's like right over the crotch. But because our crotches dip in as women, you can actually put my phone, I can actually put my phone in there, and you can't really notice anything, so it kind of works. I also really like it sleeveless, honestly, but I'm sticking with my original design. We're gonna go draft some set-in sleeves for the first time. Yay! Sometimes I avoid working on a thing that I'd like to get better at by telling myself that I'm planning to do a whole exploration of that thing. And then sometimes I do the whole exploration, like with grommets and stuff, and then other times I keep avoiding doing the whole exploration, and then I also avoid doing anything else, and I just never get better at it. Set-in sleeves is the example I am speaking of. I used wire to make drafting pants easier for myself because of the curve involved. So theoretically, that exact same trick should work for drafting set-in sleeves, because my confusion all comes down to the curve involved. Like, we know a sleeve basically is this shape. The question is just, how do you decide how tall, how wide, how curvy that top curve is? People who actually draft patterns probably have answers to these questions. I do not. So my thought is this. If I take some wire, I need clippers. All right, we've got full size of these somewhere, I'm pretty sure. I gotta stop using these tiny jewelry ones. Do we? I'm gonna chisel through it. Don't do this at home. Or do, I'm not the boss of you. Good Lord, all right. All right, well, I opened the door and the puppy went to lay in the sun, so I guess we're leaving that open now. You can listen to the wind with me. I did this longer just because it feels like it'll be helpful to have some excess on either side, so I'm just going to tape out exactly 20 inches. Hi, we coming back? So then theoretically, I can just do the curve. Oh God, how does that even work? 20 inches is a lot too long. This is the confusion. How does this work? All right, we can close the door again. Oh, wait, I just took the measurement of this. That's not the same as the measurement of this. The measurement of this is what the arm's eye is. Stuff is coming together. Ha 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 ha. So I'm basically gonna mock up one sleeve out of the plain material, baste it on, sew it all together, and make any adjustments I want to that sleeve, take it back apart, and that's my new pattern piece. Yeah. What? Maybe? Actually, I don't know, that might be right. Okay, I've done a whole bunch of adjusting, but I'm pretty happy with this. Hello! It's pretty nice and tight, which is good because the other fabric is a little bit stretchier than this one. I cut so much off. Let's see how it compares to my original pattern. What a sweet potato. You're such a sweet little potato. Huh. It's not as wildly different as I thought it would be, but granted, the pattern piece did not have seam allowance on it, so you gotta take off another, you know, ½ inch there. In some places I did remove quite a lot. I'm just gonna trace this onto a new piece of wrapping paper, and then we can cut out some sleeves. I think I'm gonna do it on the bias. So all the stripes are diagonal on the arm. Might as well go for it. Cool. And I'm quite hungry, so I'm gonna pause one more time for lunch, and then we will finish this dress. Woo! After convincing myself there was no need to baste the sleeves on first, I promptly sewed the wrong sleeve to the wrong armhole and then spent 10 minutes carefully unpicking it, backstitching and all. But 2 rounds of basting later, I have sleeves! I was gonna say that because I hid the lacing loops on the back, this dress could just be worn completely backless and open with no lacing, but the sleeves actually remove that option just because the presence and weight of them pulls the dress outward, which means it won't really stay where it needs to anymore without some lacing in the back. Eep though, eep I say! I'm really liking this. Okay, so we should be done now. We're done with that dress. We should be going to the final product and all that stuff, right? We're gonna make a pit stop, and by a pit stop I mean I'm gonna make a whole second dress. The adjustable lacing thing ended up not really working in the way that I was imagining it, which is fine. That's totally fine. We try things, we don't always succeed. But I really like the hip additions on me a lot more than I thought I would. And since I was so fascinated at how well these two fabrics go together, I thought, you know what, let's just go for it. Let's make a second dress, let's try it again. The focus all being on the hip things instead of the low back lacing thing. I am gonna do a totally different method this time because I realized as I was doing all of these mini adjustments to the top of the black dress and adding darts and everything that I was just slowly turning it more and more into this dress, my favorite dress, the only pattern I ever use. So rather than drafting it from scratch or using the patterns that I just created, I'm just gonna use this pattern and alter it to allow for the hip things, yeah? This also means that I can utilize the lovely raglan sleeves that are on this pattern and not draft self-draft set in sleeves again, cause that went okay, but it didn't go great. Overall though, there's not that much of interest about this. I'm just gonna make another dress. I'm gonna use the pattern, I'm gonna alter things. It's gonna be grand, probably. Variations on a theme. Y'all know how much I love variations on a theme. So, this feels like it could be a montage. Let's montage it. Also though, I was looking through all of my cookbooks that I do not use enough because me and recipes don't really get along super well. And I found a recipe in here for passion fruit Jaffa cakes, and I'm gonna make those while I'm making this second dress. So we'll throw that into the montage too. Actually, I'm gonna give you montage with voiceover because I've always got something to say. Since winter is upon us, sort of, around here it mostly just peeks at us over the horizon, and I've really been wanting some more comfy hoodie dresses, I figured this is the perfect opportunity to make myself another one, which means this whole thing is going to be ankle length, and at some point I'll remember to cut a hood out for it. I cut out the front and back pieces exactly like normal, and then for the 4 side pieces, I added that curve right at the top of the hips, using a handy-dandy slice of lime as a guide. I'm definitely getting pockets into this one, and then the sleeves are gonna be in the lighter, softer fabric, which will also be the hip additions, but I'll cut those out later. Matt is making risotto for lunch, so after chopping a shallot for him, cause he hates that part, I got to sewing this together. Should have been simple, shouldn't have taken long, only I once again convinced myself that everything would be perfect, so go ahead and sew that top stitching without trying it on. It'll be fine! It was not fine. Yeah, for some reason, I'm having way more fit issues than I have ever had with this dress and this pattern, which is super weird and unexpected, and therefore, I basically sewed the whole dress together with all the top stitching before realizing that a ton of stuff needs to be adjusted. This is somewhat annoying, since seam ripping on this knit is not exactly a walk in the park. So before I started cutting corners and rushing my way through dress number 2, which I'm still trying to do slowly and carefully in the manner so successful so far, I decided to take a break to start those passion fruit Jaffa cakes. Hopefully when I come back to the dress, I'll be more in the mood to seam rip everything. In case you couldn't tell, this is a British cookbook, so whereas in America we have gelatin powder pretty much exclusively, Brits use gelatin sheets. But guess who found gelatin sheets in a French grocery store here? That's right, it's me. And that was potentially years ago, and this is the first time I'm using them. So, do gelatin sheets go bad? I'm just making the jelly that goes in the Jaffa cakes for now, so it's all that passion fruit juice mixed with orange juice. Gotta have the traditional orange flavor. Whoops. And then you stir in a couple tablespoons of sugar and those gelatin sheets, pour it in a tray, and cross your fingers that it'll set. Spoiler alert, it did! After hours and hours, seriously so many hours of seam ripping, pinning, basting, trying on, adjusting, sewing, and trying on again, we ended up pretty much back where we started. Can you see the difference? I hope so, but if not, I can see and feel the difference in the fit, and that's what matters. Tomorrow, we do the hip stuff. This isn't really a montage anymore, is it? We're just fully going down the road of dress number 2. I guess it feels like a montage to me if I don't put on my lav mic and talk to the camera for half an hour straight. Anyway, I cut out 4 quarter circles of the lighter fabric because we're gonna do a half circle on each hip for maximum swoosh. Also, that means there's a seam down the center for pocket insertion. Huzzah! Oh, and I baked the sponge for the Jaffa cakes first thing, so those are done. And, I'm not sure if they're supposed to look like this, but we're going with it. Back to the table, I also remembered that this is gonna be a hoodie dress and therefore needs a hood. Had just enough of the soft fabric left for the lining, and then the sturdier fabric will go on the outside. Got that put together, nice and big and cozy, just the way I like my hoods. And then it was back to those Jaffa cakes. The jelly worked out really nicely, very tart and passion fruity. But I think I was supposed to turn the little sponges over before putting the jelly on top? Who knows? Well, the Brits know. I don't know. Feel free to chime in, Brits. Am I doing this completely wrong? The chocolate will not stick to the jelly. In the end, we got some very, very messy Jaffa cakes, and I was reminded why I don't like working with chocolate. So much mess, so much sticky, so much cleanup. They do taste very good though, so back to the dress. The hip additions were super easy to attach, but y'all, I even basted the first one on just to be sure I liked where it was before committing to those tiny, tight, very hard to seam rip seams. Look at me learning. I should try it on. Yo, it turned out so good. I absolutely love it. But wait, don't look at it yet. Let's just go to the final product. Finally! Y'all. Oh, I didn't position the camera very well, did I? Whoops. That'll do. Y'all, I love both of these dresses so freaking much, but let's be real, mostly this one. It's so comfy. I'm reminded of how much I love hoodie dresses, and I am so pleased to have another one in the collection. There is just something about being in a comfy knit dress and also being able to simultaneously swoosh your way around the house like you are a medieval princess. It's just the perfect combo. Obviously, the black one has a few issues, but it still is really beautiful, I think. I don't know why I find it hilarious that I think that, but apparently I do. I'm just spreading my skirt out in a giant circle right now because I can't help it. I know I was just talking about the black one, but back to this one. This fabric right here is so light and soft and breezy, while this one is like nice and thick and stable. And the combo works so well because the whole dress feels like really sturdy because the main parts of it are, but also light and floaty and swooshy because so much of the skirt is the significantly lighter knit. Anyway, that's all I gotta say on this one. I love it. As I was saying about the black one, hi! Have you come to visit? Oh, thank you. That's so nice. I'll just talk around him. The black one, first of all, I think the low back would have been better if I had stopped at the waist because it's kind of wrinkling in some places because it has to go over the like very beginning of the, oh, you knocked my mic off. It has to go over the very beginning of the curve of my hiney, and therefore it very easily kind of wrinkles upwards. I do love the look though of the low back with the spiral lacing on it. My set-in sleeves, I'm gonna give myself a big ol' pat on the back for that first try. Like, that's not bad for a first try. However, they're also not good. At least I tried it though, finally. Woo! Other thoughts. All other thoughts have left my brain. Oh, yeah, it was nice to really take my time on these and to not rush. And by nice, I mean it was very annoying at times, especially when I basically had to completely deconstruct this dress and start over. It was nice because it was worth it. And I'm really pleased to have kind of some of my best made garments here. Like, again, not that the black one is perfect, but I feel like it has a higher quality of construction than I normally do, while at the same time still being my kind of construction. Like, none of the seams are finished on the inside because I never bother finishing seams out of knit material. So it's still a me construction, but it is me to a higher quality than I maybe have been in the past. And I think that was really a good practice. It took me longer to make. It took me longer to make these two dresses than it maybe normally would have. I was doing it very slowly. The irony being that it still didn't take that long because they're still basically two pretty simple dresses. Anyway, my brain's about had it for the day, so I'm gonna go eat a Jaffa cake. Later, taters. Oh, I'm sorry, Bubby. I'm so sorry. Did Mommy almost step on your foot? Oh no, oh no. Congrats on 10 years with LinkedIn. I didn't even know I had a LinkedIn. I've played around with use and care. All right, it's a whiteboard, calm down. It's almost lunchtime, but it's not close enough to lunchtime. It's kind of just a little black dress, but made out of, no. Oh, thank you. Oh, perfect. Sorry, that was loud. Y'all? Oh no, there's the circles there. Hold on while I fart. Oh, those are gonna be stinky.